Greetings, dear friends. It is us, the Sirians. It is with great pleasure that we speak to you today, and we are very grateful, as always, to our channel for allowing us to come through and to have this incredible experience of speaking directly to you on your beautiful blue planet. We know that you enjoy hearing our wisdom and our perspectives, which sometimes are difficult to find in the jungle, so to speak, of your third density experience. And we know that you will gain great insight into the nature of your reality and of your lives on your planet by listening to us and by also feeling our frequency as we transmit to you. For it is one of an infinite string of glorious days from where we sit. And we wish to you an infinite string of glorious days ahead, though we know there is much for you to navigate as you continue to unravel the density of karmic experiences you have accumulated as a somewhat, you might say, naive soul experiencing such a dense reality. But we are so proud to see the progress that so many of you have made. We adore that our channel enjoys so much discussing and teaching you about astrology. As we have said many times before, we also, from where we are, pay much attention to astrology. The movements of the planets that are around us and the movements of the moons and the other celestial objects around us, we know have immense meaning. And we plan not just our personal experiences, but more importantly, our collective experiences, our events, our celebrations around these astrological events. You, of course, on your planet have been through a portal. You have been through what you term the eclipse season. And as you know, when your sun and your moon meet in the sky, it has quite an impact, does it not? Not just the celestial event itself, of course, but the impact it has on your reality, on your grid that you live, you might say, on top of. And the one word, of course, if you were to distill the effect of these celestial events into one word, it would be change. And we would remind you that change is a blessing. That change is something that is not just a feature of your denser reality. It is a feature of all realities at all levels of existence. We love to change for the sake of change. You may find that surprising. You may be thinking, well, there you are, you Sirians, existing on such a high level of beingness, such a high level of existence, that why would you ever want to, or why would you ever need to shift and change? However, it is because we exist at such a high level, a high vibration, if you will, a lighter vibration, if you will, that we are more able to shift and change. We are more able to move freely as individuals and as collectives. It is you existing in such a low, dense vibration where, because of the density of it, and because of the requirement to simply figure out a means for survival, more importantly, if you think about it from a grounded perspective, than anything else in your reality. And because of that density, and that need to establish safety, it is more difficult for you to move and shift in your denser reality, is it not? It is difficult to change locations, is it not? It is difficult to change relationships if you are in a partnership, is it not? It is difficult to separate from family, is it not? It is difficult to change your vocation, is it not? And these changes, you may notice, dear friends, may come much more rapidly around the significant celestial events that occur, like your biannual eclipse seasons. We are so happy that your channel has reminded you so many times and in so many ways of the nature of your eclipses and how they do create change. And as easy as it is for us to be flexible, to flow with the wind, if you will, to change as change is calling us, if you will, we wish the same upon you. Yet with compassion, we understand it is not as simple necessarily as it is for us. If, for example, one of us was in a partnership, and for whatever reason, that partnership was no longer fulfilling both of us. If just one of us in that partnership was feeling the desire to experience something else, whether it be a lack of a partnership or a break from the partnership or a new partnership, there would be no ifs, ands, or buts, as you might say on your planet. We would simply separate with joy, with love, with gratitude, and with appreciation. But we know it is not that simple for you, dear friends, on your planet. If it was that simple, there would be a loss of much of your entertainment, would there not be? You would not have nearly as many movies or books or sitcoms, as we know you call them, if not for the drama inherent in your experience of romantic relationships. Similarly, if we at any point, for whatever reason, had the desire to live in a different part of our planet, in a different climate. Yes, we have on some of our planets quite a diversity of climate and weather, similar to what you have. On our planet, if you're curious where we speak to you from, it is quite pleasant, quite tropical all year round. We enjoy the pleasantness and the stability of the weather on our planet. We appreciate it. However, if one of us ever decided we were a bit bored of experiencing the same pleasant weather every day, we might decide to move to a different planet in our star system, perhaps a bit farther away from the stars themselves, and to experience a more dualistic climate, similar to what you have on your planet. You might say this would be like moving from your San Diego to your Buffalo. And we understand that your channel proudly lives near the latter. If we at any time felt bored with what we were doing, as we have told you before, there are 5 of us in this, what you might call, outreach committee, where we speak with you. We speak with many on your planet, and we speak with many on many different planets. We outreach throughout this galaxy in particular to civilizations that are not yet fully spacefaring, meaning there is not yet a transparency of the ability for a civilization to be freely spacefaring, having been made public, which is the case for your planet. And by spacefaring, we of course mean more than simply what your channel was discussing as being a shuttle between you and your moon, so to speak. We mean spacefaring outside of one solar system with actual people. And so civilizations like yours that are not yet transparently spacefaring, and civilizations like yours that are open enough to communicate with us, we see this as our role. We put ourselves out there into what you might call the ethers, into what might you call the field, and make ourselves available for communication, for discourse. And we are very grateful to your channel for finding us. But if any one of us at any time were to feel like we had completed our role, we would, with gratitude and joy and freedom, express ourselves in a way that felt more aligned. We would find a vocation that we enjoyed even more, or for whatever reason we desired to express ourselves through more. Or we would decide to not have any vocation at all. And we would implore these codes, if you will, this energy of freedom upon you, dear friends. The more that you can live your life with flexibility and with a sense of honoring your deepest desires, it will allow you, dear friends, to start to escape more quickly some of the chains, if you will, of the karma that you've been carrying with you, and some of the chains of the collective karmas of your families, of your communities, of your towns, of your countries, and so on and so forth. It is as if you are unhooking chains from yourself. It is as if you are taking keys and opening up handcuffs that have been on your hands and your wrists. And you are able to move with a flexibility that you may not have felt since you were very young. If you think back, dear ones, to your purest innocence as the children that you all once were, and the freedom and the sense of unlimited potential that came with every day of play, be it with your friends or by yourself, or with... There were no limits, were there? And it was only as you grew up and began to receive the indoctrination, we think is a appropriate term here, of the adults in your life and of your communities, the mores of your societies, that this sense of innocence and this sense of freedom and this sense of unlimited potential waned over time, did it not? We would remind you that one of the quickest ways to accelerate your ascension is to return to the expressions of that innocence, to the freedom of that innocence, to the sense of honoring one's desires as an expression of that innocence, to the honesty of that innocence. For those of you that have allowed yourself to bury your honesty under piles, mounds, if you will, of pretending to be someone you are not, of pretending to serve a role that truly does not sit well with you anymore, or perhaps never did. For those of you that have been pretending to play a role in order to remain a static reflection in the eyes of others, but in the process have buried the honesty of the expansion that your soul is attempting to create. We would remind you and we would implore you that this particular time, dear friends, as you come down the slope, if you will, from your most recent eclipse season, that at this particular time you have an incredible opportunity, a portal, if you will, to reestablish that honesty, to return to that innocence of honesty, to be who you really are on the deepest level. We know this is scary for some or for all. We know that you may fear the consequences of being truly honest. And we also understand that there may be a limit and extent of what you actually understand about yourself. You may not even know what you truly desire, and that is okay. You may not know who you truly are, and that is okay. But it is more valuable in the context of your expansion as an ascending being to attempt to explore new frontiers and new territories rather than to continue to relegate oneself to, if you will, the static representation of who one has been. So if you do not know who you are meant to be, where you are meant to go, who you are meant to become, and who it is and whom it is with that you are meant to share the bulk of your experiences, we would advise you that it is better to try anything different than to try nothing and to relegate yourself to the static nature of what you're used to. And there is a principle which we have spoken somewhat about prior. There is a principle that we would say has to do with the laws of expansion as a soul, which directly relate to the laws of expansion in general, be it the expansion of the consciousness of anything in reality, including a planet, a civilization, a star system, a galaxy, a universe. That the requirement is always expansion. And on a deepest level, since you are a spark of source, the divine, you are a piece of the divine, simply playing as a physical expression. It is your nature to always be expanding, to always be growing, to always be evolving. And when you are not using your conscious willpower, dear friends, to expand at the rate at which the deeper parts of you, you may refer to this as your soul, are desiring for you to expand, that gap will magnetize the forces of the universe, which we might say from a very practical standpoint are more powerful than the forces of the soul. A prime example of this is your experience of great storms on your planet. Recently, for those of you that live in your state of Florida and your state of North Carolina, you've experienced the fury of your planet expressing herself in the form of great hurricanes. And it is a humbling reminder, is it not, of the power of the forces of the universe over the power of the forces of the soul. For despite how hard all of you prayed for these storms to go away, they did not. And we would say that some of you had great success in protecting your own property or the property of loved ones and friends. However, none of you, and even all of you banding together, could not have stopped the storm itself. We think this is a good example at this time, and a timely example, to illustrate what happens when you do not evolve as quickly, consciously, as the deeper parts of you, your soul, are intending for you to evolve. The gap that is created, the delta, if you prefer more mathematical terms, will magnetize the forces of the universe. Those forces which we admitted are much more powerful than the forces of the soul, to create opportunities for you to have to shift. If you do not push the hand of the universe's hand pushes you. The forces of the universe mean no harm when that hand of the universe reaches out to nudge or to push or to trip you, if necessary. It is with the most benevolent intention. It is with the most primordial, fundamental, benefic intention of God and Source itself. That is the underlying source of this hand, if you will, that nudges you, pushes you, or trips you when necessary. However, the experience of it may be temporarily discomforting. However, it is through discomfort that you will grow the most quickly in your reality. In our reality, because of the vibration we exist at, the experience of discomfort, other than very fleeting discomfort, would actually be a deterrent and a distraction, and it would delay our trajectory of evolution, which already flows, you may say, like a peaceful river. The trajectory of our evolutions, plural, as beings and as communities, as larger societies, as planets, and our star system itself flows with such a steady and peaceful trajectory. We would never want to tamper with it. And there would never be a purpose, a benevolent purpose at least, to tampering with it. But in the density of your reality, it is often through this experience of force, of being pushed, the experience of discomfort. And the discomfort will only be as uncomfortable as is necessary. When there is no reason for the discomfort, there is no reason for the discomfort. When there is discomfort, it is there until the reason is traversed. You may call this the lesson. We would clarify, as we think sometimes that word lesson does not, at least in your perception for most of you, encompass the totality of what this is. We would clarify that it is more than a lesson. It is a reshaping of you and your reality to align with the intention of the pre-planned, you may call it pre-written, trajectory of your evolution. And this is much more applicable for those of you that are participating consciously in what your channel calls, and we do like this term, the Ascension lifetime. For those that are not participating in the Ascension lifetime at this moment, which is the vast majority of your planet, this necessity to, you may think of it as catching up with the already underlying pre-planned evolutionary trajectory of your evolution while you are in the body you are in. For those that are not in their conscious ascension lifetime, it will not be as important, as they will have more leeway, you may think of it as, to navigate their experience as they desire. Whereas for you, although your desires are crucial, because your desires that come from the deepest place in reality resonate with what has been pre-planned in this very trajectory. You may also think of it as, it's not what you want, it's what you need. And what you need is not what you need, it's what you, the deeper aspect of you, your term being the soul, needs. So you cannot push back truly against the forces, or the winds, if you will, of change. You can delay, modify, take somewhat different paths through the forest of change, if you will. However, you cannot truly escape the necessity for the reshaping of your reality at certain key moments. And as you are today on the other side of the experience of your eclipses, you are in one of those portals, dear friends, now. Marian asks, can some of us live at a lighter density on this earth before the entire planet ascends? Can you help with that? Yes, you are very astute, dear one. You can. You can live at whichever vibration you desire at any given moment if you are not carrying a density with you that would preclude that. It makes sense if you think about it, does it not? If you were to weigh down a hot air balloon with weights so it is anchored to the earth, well, the helium in the balloon itself and the shape of the balloon will not allow the balloon to ascend. But if you cut the ropes that are tied to those weights, to those anchors, then absolutely you're able to then ascend into the sky. So you can exist independent of the vibrations of those that you spend your day-to-day with, dear one, and of the society you live in itself. Absolutely. And we would encourage you to do so, as when you do so, you become an example energetically and at certain times more physically, literally, for others to be able to do the same. And of course, as you may already know, it is through all of you that are scheduled to going forth and successfully moving forward with your ascensions as individuals, that is the single most impactful thing on the timeline of your planetary ascension. And we have discussed this prior in other meetings with you. We would advise that if you desire to exist at a lighter vibration than those around you, is that you may have to give up some experiences that are common to those around you and common and familiar to you. If you truly want to exist at a lighter vibration in your reality, you must let go of all things that create density in your experience physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. For example, if you truly desired a very light experience, you would want to consume a very light diet. You would want to consume a very clean diet with both very clean food and very clean water. You would want to eliminate all emotional toxicity around you. You would want to turn away from any inputs from your devices, your technological devices, that induce states of fear or trauma or sadness or jealousy. You would want to grid your location, which you reside, with quartz, with crystals, in order to create a very high frequency. You would want to use detoxification methodologies to systematically detoxify the organs of your body and your blood. You would want to be very cognizant and careful of the types of people you interact with, the locations you frequent, and the type of activities you frequent. Now, for some of you, or many, or most of you, this may seem like too much. And we understand. And there is a role for all of you. And some of you have chosen. We hear our channel kind of raising his own hand here to very much participate in the density of the world and at the same time have an experience of life that is very light vibrationally. And we applaud that just as much as we applaud those that have chosen to go the route of what we suggested and to live a much lighter vibrational experience. Both have tremendous value. For the former may have more of an ability to interact and to create shifts, radical shifts, we might applaud, amongst the people around him or them, while the latter may be setting more of an energetic example for those around them. Both, we would say, are equally valuable in the context of your planetary ascension at this time. And there may be a time where those that have chosen to be more embedded will choose to become less embedded and to live more in that lighter vibration more of the time. There are wonderful gifts that come along with living in that lighter vibration. The gift of being able to move yourself physically without having to use your transportation devices. The gift of being able to communicate with one another without opening your mouth. The gift of being able to move off of the ground, to levitate or fly at will. The gift of not requiring to consume food. However, for most of you, this sort of existence is not realistic at this time and will not be for quite some time. And for most, it would be actually detrimental to pursue this sort of existence as one solitary goal. Because for most of you, you are still at the stages of working out, you may say, your karma, working out the density that you still carry with you. And it is through working through it rather than avoiding it that you will actually find the quickest resolution. The type of life we described, the lightness that would be required to, let's say, teleport or be completely telepathic or to live sans any disease or to live sans food if one desires. This sort of experience is at this time only realistically available to those that have reached such a mastership that they are no longer carrying with them any significant density of karma. And we can say that is not the case for any of you that we are speaking to now, including your channel. Your journey at this point, dear friends, is for most of you more in working through that density. And as you work through the density, inevitably, as we gave the example of the balloon rising, inevitably it will allow you to elevate vibrationally, and you can begin to live this sort of hybrid life, you may think of it as, where you are, as the old adage on your planet goes, in the world, but not of it. You exist in a collective, but you have reached levels of being different in an elevated way than those around you. We hope this is of assistance to you. We hear our channel desiring for us to move on into discussing the mysteries of your great planets. We would warn your channel that if he truly wanted us to delve into the depths of the mysteries of your planet, your channel may be sitting here all the way through the night. And we, of course, joke, but we could speak quite at length. And what we hear our channel asking for us to do is to discuss the origins of you, of your group as a planetary body. We would like to take you way, way back in time, dear friends. Back to the origins of your planet. Your planet evolved from being a rocky terrain with large bodies of water. But because of the youth of the soul of your planet, there was no life yet. And this youthful soul of your planet decided, you may say one day, that it would like to experience hosting life. And with this intention, it brought into action the forces of the universe and the forces of the galactic consciousness to put the word out to those more evolved groups. We would especially give our gratitude and credit, if you will, to the Pleiadian beings that are our dear friends that had come and explored not just your planets at its youth, but all of the planets in your youthful solar system at their youths, and seen the potential for the wonderful experience of physical life on several of the planets in your solar system. And the word went out throughout the galaxy that a new youthful planet was ready for seeding. And using the forces of the universe, the seeding began as a collaboration between Earth herself. Gaia is a great term to use for her. And the Pleiadians, later the beings from Lyra coming in, and later even us coming in, and seeding your planets to team with a diversity of life a diversity that had only been seen a handful of times before in our great galaxy. It was a desire of the consciousness of your planet herself. And we could say your star as well desired this, to experience a great diversity of life, an unusual amount of diversity of life. And of course, with this great diversity, that then you might say over the course of billions of years, as your scientists have deciphered, grew from very simple life to very complex ecosystems, with the great complexity and duality of the climates, of the biomes of your planet, playing the role of being a wonderful support system for this intention of creating an incredible diversity of life around your planet. That over the course of in your years, billions, this evolution took place. And when it became time for the experiment to expand to beings that you may refer to as humanoid, as bipedal, to come and populate this planet, it was the Pleiadian friends that took charge, that asked for volunteers of souls from all around this galaxy. The call especially went out to those in the Pleiades themselves, to those in the Lyran star system, to those in our star system, to those in Orion's star system, to come and experience life here or on the other planets that were being simultaneously populated in your star system, those you would call Venus, Mars, or Maldek. And this great experiment of populating the planet took place. It was a desire of your star and agreed to by your planets that your planet would be very much kept open to anyone from anywhere who wanted to be involved, at least initially. And it was your friends that came all the way from the star system of Draco that were very curious about your life on your young planets, and were very curious about the resources that were created by your planet herself when she created herself out of rock, that came and explored, and yes, joined with you, if you will, though initially it was not something you had wanted, to create the modern day version of who you are today. And although those giants have long ago gone into hiding in many different corners of your planet, many returning to Draco, or many returning to the planet you call Nibiru, the legacy of how they created you, how they manipulated your genes, how they created you into the creative and strong physical beings, but yet beings that it would take some cracking, so to speak, in order to get you to spiritually awake and advance at a rate that is more normal on other planets in our galaxy. We would say that was their intention, because to them, the longer they could keep you as their pets, so to speak, the longer they could keep you as their pets. It is scary to them, to the Anunnaki, that are on your planet and those that are off, to see how quickly your spiritual evolution is taking place. And them and those that affiliate and associate with them, they will do whatever they believe is necessary to, they believe they can prevent your evolution. They cannot. It would not be allowed by the galactic councils. It would not be allowed by the galaxy herself. However, despite them knowing this on an intellectual level, some of them, we shake our heads sometimes in frustration at their stubbornness. They still believe they can try to stop your evolution, as they have done with other groups. We would add, though, that those other groups that they did in the past stall their evolution because of the laws, the physics, the quantum physics, if you will, of Ascension. That stalling was in reality a pause. And they will do whatever they can. And we have warned you of this before. We appreciate all of the warnings your channel gives you ongoing about this potential. And it is not out of any sort of love. It is out of only a desire to maintain control rooted in fear. And this is why, dear friends, one of the most important facets of your ascension and one of the quickest ways out of the karmic webs that you may have been born into is through the elimination of fears. Fear leads to, some of you may fill in the blanks with a Star Wars quotes from your famous film series. Fear leads to the dark side, and that is quite true. And the opposite of fear, which we would say is trust, leads to enlightenment. Trust does not equate with trusting in those that may desire to hurt you. Trust in this sense, of course, means the trust of God or source or universe or whichever benevolent higher spheres or beings you want to give credence to. It is that trust in the higher power that is the antidote and the opposite of fear. And it is that trust that quickens your evolution because it eliminates resistance. As we discussed before, so many experience that resistance to change, which is rooted in fear. And as you overcome those fears and allow change to take place as a natural experience, then that change will take place as a natural experience. And it will take place in the highest possible, the most graceful possible way, versus if you had, out of fear, been resisting that change. We know that we thank our channel and we thank you for allowing us the time and the space to discuss what we feel and what we have discussed before this transmission as being what is most important for us to relate to you and to those of you that we understand will be watching this later. However, as it is the desire of our channel and of you, we will now open ourselves to questions about the mysteries of your planet in particular. Will the Sirians be able to help us with the effects of COVID? And can they remove the negative effects of the vaccine some of us were forced to have as healthcare workers, otherwise we've lost our jobs? Dearest Rachel, we do understand with the utmost compassion about the experience that you have had, the negative experience in many ways of being given the choice between keeping your vocation and the safety of the financial implications that come along with it, and choosing to do what you believe, and perhaps wisely so, would be best for your health. There is nothing in particular that we are doing for you as a collective, because if we were to do anything, it would subvert your necessary karmic experience as a collective. We would remind you, you have complete free will and the power to eliminate all negative effects. We would remind you that anything that causes toxicity in your physical vessel may be detoxified from your vessel. There are techniques you can use working with energy. If the energy is at a high enough frequency, it will vibrate the toxicity out of your body. And if not out of your body, it will vibrate it to get it to move. And then you can detoxify it out of your body. There are also physical and homeopathic medicines that you can take or even chelate through your bloodstream to detoxify these toxins. The vibrational frequency, if it were to be measured, of these sorts of medicines would be much higher than the vibrational frequency of the toxicity. What was the purpose of the pyramids built around all over the world, not only the ones in Egypt? The purpose of the pyramids, dear friends, can be found in their shape. The pyramid is a conductor of energy. The energy can be conducted two ways. Either gathering energy from around the base of the pyramid, and depending on the height of the pyramid, there will be an exponential area of influence all around the base of the pyramid. In the case of the pyramids of Egypt, they were built to an extent where the area of influence extends out to cover the entire region of the Middle East, as you call it. Energy can either be gathered through the grids into the base of the pyramid and then directed up and out the top of the pyramid, or the energy can be gathered from the sky into the top of the pyramid and then down into the earth grids. The pyramids were placed and built on your planet with the guidance of mostly us, not us five in particular, but us, the Sirians. It was mostly us. The only other beings, the only other friends of yours that ever assisted were the Yael. The Pleiadians have had nothing to do with the creation of your pyramids. It has been us. And we advised you and assisted you in building these all around your planet for this particular time. Because as time goes on in your ascension process, more and more of you are learning of the power of the pyramids, and that one of the shortcuts to succeeding in your planetary ascension is to utilize the pyramids as power directing structures to direct energy either up to us, to the Pleiadian friends, to wherever, and to create a streamlined, focused beam where if you offer the beam to us or to any of our friends that are intimately involved in your affairs, we then have the free will. We are then able to, without negatively influencing your karmic experience, to provide an influx of energy back in order to assist you in your planetary ascension. But you must create it first, because if not, we would be having a negative effect on your karmic experience. So you may use the power portals, the pyramids. If you can physically go inside them, that is the best way. If you can physically gather in them as a group and direct energy, that is the absolute best way. If you cannot gather inside them, that's the second best way is to gather on them or right beside them. This is very simple to do in most cases. And we might say the third best way is to do it remotely. But if you do it through groups, it is more powerful to remotely visualize using the beams. We may direct you to do that right now if you'd like. We would advise you to visualize the Great Pyramid of Giza with the King's Chamber inside. Imagine that all of you in your group, being led by your channel, are inside the King's Pyramid. And the base of the pyramid is now gathering energy from the ley lines that intersect there, gathering energy from hundreds of miles out on all sides, gathering the energy of the elements, the metals in the earth itself. And that energy now, you're seeing it as an etheric thing. Perhaps you see it as gold. That gold is directed through you as a group as you gather in a circle in the King's Chamber. And then you direct that gold beam up the top of the pyramid and to our Sirius A star. If you see in the sky the 3 stars of Orion's belt, and you imagine a line going a bit down and to the left, for those of you in the northern hemisphere of your planet, you will see the brightest star in the sky. And if you direct that beam to us, to this star, we receive it. And this allows us as a collective just a little bit more freedom to now send this energy back. And you've now established this connection. Now, this is a connection you've established through this exercise that we are grateful for your channel leading you through, will pale in comparison to the power of gathering in person to do this. And we would continue to implore upon you, dear friends, of the necessity of gathering in person as light workers to create shifts. We are so proud of your channel for leading groups this calendar year of yours at the portal at Mount Shasta, at the portal in New York State, and next year at portals in Sedona, at a portal in Peru, multiple portals in Peru, and multiple portals in Hawaii. So the pyramids, dear friends, were built to be used, but they have, for the most part, laid dormant since we have built them or assisted you in building them. But now is the time, as you become more aware of their power and become more aware of your power to influence the grid, they can be used. And we would also like to instruct you, you can also use the pyramids to expand energy in concentric circles out of the top of the pyramid. So you may use it as a beam, but you may also use it to emit concentric circles of energy. And if you'd like, you can even imagine that now as you gather virtually in the King's Chamber, shooting energy up, you are to the top of the pyramid, and then seeing that energy move outward in concentric circles. And you can, if you'd like, you can direct that energy of the concentric circles to the entire planet or to a particular radius around the pyramid. And if you would like to influence other parts of the planet, you would want to use pyramids that exist in other parts of the planet. Susan asks, how are the Sirians helping us navigate through all the darker agendas some are working to mandate? Thank you, Susan, for your wonderful question. We are not doing anything to directly influence any agendas or any plans being made by the dark ones, as we and you may call them, on your planet. And we have no desire to have a direct impact in that way, because similarly, it would subvert your requirement to navigate that karma as a collective. What we are doing is working to enlighten you, because through your experience of spiritual enlightenment and spiritual ascension, there will be a point on your planet where, as a collective, you vibrate too high. Some have called this the tipping point, where you vibrate too high for the agendas and the plans that have been put into motion or are planned to be put into motion by the Dark Ones to be able to exist. Nothing can exist if not vibrationally supported. We are happy to answer all questions. Most of our benevolent friends are happy to answer all questions. We are happy to teach you, and we are happy to vibrate you, so to speak. We are happy to influx you with codes that will assist you in your spiritual ascension, with codes that will assist you in protection. And you may ask for that from us or from any of our friends out there at any time. And for those of you that are vibrating at a higher frequency than the majority of the collective around you, you will not have as negative of experiences as those of the collectives around you, if and when any sorts of nefarious agendas are put into motion. Are we still in the conflict of the Orion Wars? If so, do you see there to be resolution to this conflict? The Orion Wars, in the perception and expression of linear time, have long since come to a conclusion. And we would be thankful for that conclusion. And as we would encourage you to be. However, from another way of perceiving and experiencing reality, the Orion Wars are very much alive. The karmic resonance of the experience of the Orion Wars exists in this very moment. And you see this karmic resonance being played out every day on your planet as your planet attempts to navigate the experience of war and the experience of separation and the experiences of believing oneself to have to fear one another due to one another's differences in opinions, beliefs, or even looks. So this dark legacy of the Orion War experience is absolutely a feature of your modern day reality, but in a literal linear time sense, they have long since been resolved. Do Sirians have a close relation with other Starseed families races? If you could tell us who. We have mentioned our Pleiadian friends, our dearest friends. We have very good diplomatic and complementary relationships in our work in not just assisting your solar system, but many solar systems that are attempting to accelerate their ascension at this time, along with the friends from the Bootis constellation, specifically those from the star Arcturus, those you would call the Arcturians. And we have very kind, loving, and free-flowing diplomatic relationships with all benevolent beings, as we meet often in several galactic councils at different locations throughout our galaxy. We shared with some of you when your channel was bringing us through at your channel's retreat in New York State that for the first time in the history of your planet, a physical human is now a part of one of the galactic councils. And we will say this is the largest galactic council and the most influential one. And this is a huge step forward in the evolution of your planet. The, let's say, real world results of this will not be experienced on your planet for, in your perception, quite some time. And in our perception, we could say the blink of an eye. But the fact that there is a physical human that is now participating from Earth, an Earth human, one that is associated with a particular secret government organization in your United States of America that is participating in a galactic council for the first time, this is a huge step forward for your planet because it allows the infrastructure to be in place for when your planet has overcome enough of the karma that you are faced with still handling. It will allow a smooth transition for your planet into becoming a part of the consciously spacefaring and consciously ascending galactic community. To clarify your question, though, we are friends with all benevolent beings, and we even have diplomatic relationships with negatively oriented beings. There are many groups of reptilian beings that there are councils on some of our planets who will have discussions with, but you might say at an arm's distance, as we would never agree to anything that they are attempting to get us to agree with, because it is always out of deception, which we have long ago learned. And of course, we would remind you that we are the ones that are keeping a barrier in place to make sure that there is no further infiltration of any reptilian beings into your planet. Were the storms in North Carolina and Florida manipulated with technology by humans on Earth, as many have claimed? We appreciate the question, dear Christine. Yes, these storms were strengthened by technology specifically created by your government of the United States of America, with the corroboration of many governments on your planet that also will at times use this technology for purposes within the boundaries of their own borders. Is it true that those in the third density who do not wish to evolve will no longer be reincarnating back on Earth and will instead go to other planets? Thank you for the question, dear Elizabeth. Yes, this is true in some cases. However, we would say that at this point, this is the minority of cases. And on your particular timeline that you are navigating now as a collective, this will be the minority of cases, which we would say is a good sign of a more rapid and perhaps in ways smooth evolution of your planetary ascension into the coming decades as you experience them. The majority of souls that will at any point for any reason leave their bodies and go into the spirit realm will decide to come back and participate in the ongoing ascension. Could you share the Sirians' understanding experience as individuated beings for having a relationship with Source, God, all that is? Thank you. Thank you, dear Corey, for the wonderful question. Our advice on connecting with Source, all that is to remember that you are already Source and all that is, to be Source and all that is, and to the parts of you, and there will be these parts, it is inevitable existing in the third density realm you exist in, that believe they are separate from being Source, from being God, if you will, to remind these parts of self that they are worthy, that they are loved, that they are love, that they are worth, that they are everything they could ever need to be, that they are God. This is a form of your shamanic work that you call soul retrieval, to bring parts of self that feel separate back into a cohesion. So for those of you existing in the third density, we would remind you that the trajectory and the intention should very much be in becoming what you already are, which of course requires no effort because you already are. The effort required, we may say, is in getting yourself to remember and in reminding yourself from time to time of who you are. And we hope this is of assistance. We hear our channel telling us that it's time to wrap up. We thank you so much, dear friends, from our hearts to yours. And we send this transmission of light, if you will receive. We ask you to open your heart and with intention receive this transmission of pure love from us to you. And we thank you for your time. But I'm going to do a full 90 minutes Sirian channeling special session in corroboration with Portal to Ascension. That's coming up Saturday, November 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And you'll be able to ask, just like you do here, you'll be able to ask the Sirians your questions. Okay? Go to portaltoascension.org, go to events, go to upcoming online events, and it's right here. Matthew John and channeling from Sirius. Click view details, and it's just $33 for that session. So that's Saturday, November 9th, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And even if, you feel like you got your fill today, I would love the support. It's the first time I've been invited to do my own webinar on Portal to Ascension, or whatever you want to call it, my own forum class. So it's, it's exciting for my career. So I'd, love the support, any of you that feel called to just to support me to purchase a ticket for $33 US. I'd really appreciate it. But of course, join if you do purchase a ticket. And you'll also be able to watch the replay as well.